Appreciate you guys being here, my friends. So yeah, South Carolina Saturday. Good to be back home. You know, this league is crazy. South Carolina is a team that you look at. They obviously had a tough result at Arkansas, and then I watched the next game when they play LSU, and they're up 43 to 15 in the first half. So this is an incredibly capable team. They have a lot of experience. They have two of the most experienced active players in the SEC right now on their roster as far as minutes played. And, Michi Johnson's a guy that's been in this league for a while. Prolific scorer, does a lot of really good things. And, when they make threes, they're a different basketball team. So, and they do a great job of getting to the foul line. So, threes and free are really important to this team. And they do a great job of not turning the basketball over. So they've had single-digit turnovers in 3 of their first 4 SEC games. So, and their 3 losses in conference play have come to 3 ranked opponents. So it's a team that, has shown that they're capable of playing well on the road. And, no game's easy in this league, and we're obviously going to have to fly around and play with great effort and energy in order to compete with a really good team. So we'll go from there.
Steven, how did the guys respond after not just the result at Missouri, but I know you were probably hard on them and issuing a challenge to them about leadership on the road, about having more energy in a game like that. Just what were those conversations like over the last couple of days?
Yeah, I told them, there's no one in this league good enough to just show up. And, last year's team was the best team in Auburn basketball history, and even they weren't good enough to just show up in this league and win. You got to play. What we do doesn't work unless you play with great effort and energy. And, we didn't have that on the road at Missouri. And I'm not sure why. I got to do a better job as their coach of being able to bring that out of them because you've seen what it can look like when we do. You see what it looked like against Arkansas. You see what it looked like for most of the game against A&M. You saw what it looked like against St. John's in the second half and what it looked like against NC State. We got to have more consistent efforts like that in order to beat the best teams on our schedule. Obviously you want to win every game. Missouri is undefeated at home for a reason. At full strength, they're a different basketball team. We knew all those things. So, you can't beat you have to make people beat you. Teams have to beat us. We got to stop, putting ourselves in position to beat ourselves. We're up 7 in the first, 7 minutes of that game. We get 4 straight stops after we're up 7, and then we have 5 straight empty possessions offensively, all on things that we talked about not doing. Silly turnovers in transition, bad middle offense, instead of just scoring early or scoring late. So we got to get back to doing what we did against Arkansas and doing the things that we talk about that will help us be successful. And we got away from that a little bit. They made 7 threes in the first half, and they're not historically a great 3-point shooting team. But all that happens, and we're still only down 4 at halftime. So we were still in a great spot. We didn't have the energy like we were still in a good spot. So got to do a better job in those situations. It's not who we lost to. I think it's just how we played in a loss. And, just challenged those guys yesterday and just spoke some realities. And we got to stop having conversations. We got to just be more about action and, have an opportunity to do that against a really good team on Saturday.
Is some of that just the inconsistency there, some of that just kind of natural with a team that hadn't had to do this before, or all the news? How much of it is that, and then how much of it is, all right, like you said, we got to flip that switch at some point and turn the page. You're already halfway through the year.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a combination of both, but like you said, we've sat here and talked about how hard of a schedule we've played. We've played more Quad 1 games than anyone in college basketball up to this point. We have the 13th most Quad 1 wins in college basketball, second most in the league with 3. So we can't keep using that as a crutch and as an excuse as to why we're not winning games. We played that schedule so we can go on the road to Missouri and be excited about playing and play better, right? It was no surprise that we were going to get their best shot, in front of a sold-out crowd and with elevated play from them. So yeah, we just didn't have the same pop that that we did against Arkansas, or really what we did in the first 3 games. And I'm not sure. I don't understand why, because they're really good. They beat Florida at home, who I think is probably the best team in our league, top to bottom. So if they're capable of beating Florida on the road or at home, I don't understand how we're not excited about playing that game. And we got to make that adjustment. We got to flip that switch on every single night, because what we do doesn't work unless we just fly around and play really, really hard.
I think you talked about it briefly on Tiger Talk, but Abdul getting back in the swing of things, just what do you expect from him in terms of his practice workload? And, I mean, do you have a timeline? I know a back issue is tough to come back from.
Yeah, no timeline. I think today's going to be his first live action, so kind of see what that looks like. But, when you have a lower back injury, you're really kind of limited to anything and everything that you can do. Like, you can't lift, you can't do much strenuous work, and he couldn't do a lot on the basketball floor. So, see what it looks like today, and but no timetable, nothing in the near future, I don't think. So we'll kind of go day by day and just see what that looks like.
You've been very complimentary of Phillip on multiple occasions in here, but his SEC numbers, I mean, 7 for 7 his last 2 games, 10 for 11 in SEC play. Just how big of a factor has he been, and can he continue to be?
Yeah, he's been great. Just does everything we ask. Does all the little things that are required to win. And we got to find a way to get him more minutes, because he's effective when he's out there. He plays hard. He rebounds. He gets vertical at the rim. He slides his feet. And he makes layups. So might have to do some things in the lineup to try and find more ways to get him more minutes, whether that's playing some 4 and just keeping Key at the 3 and sliding Elijah to some 2. Because I mean, you look at Sebastian, Elijah, and Phillip. They all played really well against Missouri, and they've been playing well over the last 5 or 6 games. So I think those guys have earned the right to play a little bit more. But Phillip in particular has just done everything we've asked him to do, and we got to reward that.
You talked about it after the Missouri game a little bit, but Sway getting in foul trouble just kind of hurt y'all. But in a game like this, how important is he? Especially South Carolina's got some big guys that will stretch floor, hit some shots from deep, and he's been pretty good at getting out there on the perimeter as well as defending down low.
Yeah, it doesn't matter who we play. He's important. Him being out there is more important than Mark Mitchell scoring 2 points at the beginning of the game. Like, I would rather Sebastian let him make that layup than foul him right there. And Sebastian's going to hate me saying that, because he's like, no, coach, like, I got to contest that. I'm like, all right, well, then don't slap down, right? Because you're no good to me sitting on the bench. Like, all of your value is out there because, 1, you're one of our best defenders. You're one of our most unselfish players. You play as hard as anyone on the floor every single night. So him being in foul trouble was significant in that game, because it just limited how aggressive he was able to be on the defensive end. And, he picked up a couple early ones, I think, in the second half too, which, really hurt us. So for him to only play 19 minutes in that game, he was +1 in his minutes. That just kind of tells you, how good he was when he was in the game, even though he was in foul trouble for a majority of the game. So need him to, be, as smart as he is, he's got to do a better job being smarter with the fouls that he's committing. And he can be aggressive, but he's got to be, he's got to do it. He's got to pick and choose his places when he's aggressive. He's got to be aggressive when he has advantage. Too many times I think he's being aggressive when he's lost the advantage, trying to make up and trying to cover for a mistake, either of his or someone else's. And he's got to do a better job of kind of finding that balance of being aggressive and being smart.
Do you expect K-Mag to be available tomorrow?
Caden is, asked to play on the scout team this week just to continue to get reps. What I need right now, because we have the 9th best offense in college basketball. I don't need, more offense. I need more defense. And Blake, in the last 2 games, has done a really good job in 19 minutes of just being solid and playing good defense and getting us into our offense. So that's what I need from that position right now. And Blake's one of our better defenders. So Caden knows that's what I need. And I know he's gonna try and do what he can in practice to try and make up some ground. But no, I mean, I think Blake's gonna continue to get those minutes behind Todd for right now.
with South Carolina is this one of those things when you talk about like playing hard for all 40 minutes. It's easy to show because prior to Arkansas, I mean, they had a lot of their losses were pretty close against quality opponents. Does that make it kind of easier to show that, hey, you know, maybe ignore what happened this last game, or it doesn't matter as much because, you know, this is a team that's been pretty tested, and like you said, they've got some of the most experience in the league.
Yeah, I mean, played a shorthanded Vanderbilt team at home, and you know, I think it was kind of back and forth a little bit, but ended up losing by like 10, I think. Georgia was a really close game. They had an 11-point lead in the first half of that game, and you know, led for most of the game. And Georgia kind of came back late and made a game of it. Obviously, won on the road and got up 28 in the first half at LSU. And then Arkansas, obviously coming off the loss to us, you know, played elevated and you know did a lot of really good things. So it's a team that you know. When they're going to shoot a bunch of threes, and even though they're not shooting a great percentage, it's a really important piece to what they do. I think they make 10 per game when they win and 7 when they lose. So it's a team that you know I don't think the numbers really give them you know the credit they deserve for how good of a shooting team they actually are. So Michi does a great job of setting the table for them, and they got multiple guys that just understand their role and play hard and have the ability to you know have big nights. So we got to do a good job defensively in this game, and you know they do a great job defensively with their one-on-one defense, and try and make you know what you do difficult, and they try and disrupt you. So, got to execute offensively, and we got to fly around defensively. Thanks.